Are you skipping meals, doing intermittent fasting, maybe even pushing yourself to 16, 18, or 24 hours without food, and yet you're still struggling with stubborn belly fat, low energy, or abnormal lab results? Here's a surprising truth most people don't realize. Intermittent fasting doesn't just affect your weight, it profoundly changes what's happening inside your liver. And if your liver isn't functioning correctly, fasting can either become your most powerful healing tool or a hidden stressor that slows your progress. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your liver is your metabolic command center. It controls blood sugar, fat burning, detoxification, hormone balance, and even inflammation. Every time you eat and every time you don't eat, your liver is making decisions that either move you toward healing or keep you stuck. But here's the problem. Most people approach intermittent fasting as a timing strategy, when to eat, without ever understanding what their liver is actually doing during that fast. So they fast longer, push harder, and unknowingly stress a liver that's already overloaded. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your liver like a warehouse. When you eat frequently, especially carbohydrates, that warehouse fills up with sugar, stored as glycogen, and excess fat. When you fast, your body walks into that warehouse and says, let's start using what we've stored. But if that warehouse is cluttered, inflamed, or already overfilled, the system doesn't run efficiently. And that's where things break down. In today's video, we're going to break this down step by step in a way that's simple, practical, and rooted in real physiology. You'll learn what actually happens inside your liver during fasting, why some people burn fat quickly and others don't, the biggest mistake that blocks liver fat burning, how to support your liver so fasting becomes effortless and simple, science-backed tools you can start using immediately, because when you fix the liver, everything else starts to work better: your energy, your weight, your metabolism, and your long-term health. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood ideas in fasting. People think that when you stop eating, your blood sugar simply drops, but that's not actually how your body works. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Even when you're fasting, your brain, red blood cells, and nervous system still require a steady supply of glucose. So your body doesn't just run out of sugar. Instead, your liver steps in as the regulator through a process called gluconeogenesis. Non-carbohydrate sources arrow glucose \text gluconeogenesis \text non-carbohydrate sources \retero \text glucose gluconeogenesis. Non-carbohydrate sources to glucose. Your liver literally manufactures glucose from non-carbohydrate sources, things like amino acids, lactate, and glycerol. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is like a hybrid car. When you stop eating, it doesn't shut off, it simply switches fuel sources. And your liver is the onboard computer deciding which fuel to use and when. If your metabolic system is healthy, your liver releases just enough glucose to keep things stable, while gradually shifting toward fat burning. But if your liver is dysregulated, and this is extremely common, something very different happens. It starts overproducing glucose. Now you might be thinking, how can my blood sugar be high if I haven't eaten anything? This is why. Your liver is pushing glucose into your bloodstream even during a fast. This phenomenon is often seen in people with insulin resistance or early metabolic dysfunction, and it's closely tied to conditions like type 2 diabetes. What the research shows is, in insulin-resistant individuals, the liver becomes less responsive to insulin's signal to stop producing glucose. So it keeps releasing sugar even when it shouldn't, and that blocks fat burning, because as long as glucose is available, your body will prioritize burning that first. Actionable strategy: support your liver's glucose control. So what can you do about this? Start with these simple, powerful steps. Reduce late-night eating. Eating late keeps insulin elevated overnight, signaling your liver to stay in storage mode. Aim to stop eating at least 3 to 4 hours before bed. Prioritize protein at your first meal. This stabilizes blood sugar and reduces excessive glucose production later in the day. Add light movement during your fast. Even a 10 to 15-minute walk helps your muscles absorb glucose, reducing the burden on your liver. Improve sleep quality. Poor sleep increases insulin resistance and disrupts liver signaling. Key point to remember: fasting does not automatically lower blood sugar. Your liver decides what happens next. And if your liver is overproducing glucose, you'll stay in sugar-burning mode, even when you're not eating. Now let's talk about the real lever behind whether intermittent fasting works for you or not. Because fasting is not magic. It only works when your hormones allow it to work. And the most important hormone in this entire process is insulin. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Insulin is not just a blood sugar hormone. It's a storage signal. When insulin is elevated, your body receives a very clear message. Do not burn fat. Store energy instead. So even if you're fasting, even if you haven't eaten for 12, 16, or 18 hours, if insulin remains elevated, your liver will not switch into fat-burning mode. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of insulin as a lock on your fat stores. As long as that lock is engaged, your body cannot access stored fat no matter how long you fast. When insulin drops low enough, the lock opens, and your body can finally access fat for fuel. From a physiology standpoint, this shift is what allows your liver to transition toward fat metabolism and eventually into ketogenesis. Fatty acids to ketone bodies /text ketogenesis /text fatty acids /retaro /text ketone bodies ketogenesis. Fatty acids to ketone bodies. This is where real metabolic healing begins. But here's where many people unknowingly sabotage their results. Warning: hidden reasons insulin stays elevated, even during fasting, frequent snacking, or clean eating all day. Even healthy foods can keep insulin elevated if you're constantly eating high carbohydrate meals before your fast. If your last meal is loaded with sugar or refined carbs, insulin stays elevated longer into your fasting window. Chronic stress, elevated stress hormones can indirectly keep insulin higher than expected. Poor sleep, just one night of bad sleep can increase insulin resistance the next day. What the research shows, studies consistently show that lowering insulin, not just calories, is what allows fat oxidation to increase. In fact, metabolic research demonstrates that insulin suppression is a prerequisite for lipolysis, fat breakdown. So if insulin doesn't drop, fat loss stalls, energy remains unstable, and your liver stays in storage mode. Actionable strategy: lower insulin to unlock fat burning. Here's how to make fasting actually work with your physiology. Build your last meal, strategically focus on protein, healthy fats, and fiber. Reduce refined carbs and sugars, especially at night. Create a clean fasting window. Avoid anything that spikes insulin. Sugary drinks, flavored coffees, even frequent artificial sweeteners. And some people stick to water, black coffee, or plain tea. Extend fasting gradually, not aggressively. If your insulin is high, jumping into long fasts can backfire. Start with 12 to 14 hours and build up. Manage stress intentionally. Breathing exercises, sunlight exposure, and light activity all help regulate hormonal balance. Key point to remember: fasting is not about time without food. It's about creating a low insulin environment where your liver can finally switch from storing fat to burning it. Now we're getting to the turning point, the moment where fasting either starts working or quietly stalls. Because here's the truth most people don't hear. Your body does not start by burning fat when you fast. It starts with sugar. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your liver stores glucose in a form called glycogen. Think of glycogen as your body's short-term energy reserve, quick, accessible, and easy to use. And when you stop eating, your body doesn't immediately switch to fat. It follows a very specific sequence. Fuel order: glycogen to fat oxidation /fuel order. Glycogen /retaro /text fat oxidation fuel order. Glycogen to fat oxidation first. Glycogen is used. Only after glycogen is sufficiently depleted does your body increase fat burning. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your liver is like a refrigerator and a freezer. The refrigerator holds glycogen, quick, ready-to-use energy. The freezer holds body fat, long-term stored energy. When you need fuel, your body always checks the refrigerator first. If there's still food in the fridge, it won't go into the freezer. This is exactly why many people say, "I'm fasting, but I'm not losing fat." Because they're never fully emptying the glycogen stores. What the research shows, studies on metabolic flexibility show that glycogen depletion is a key trigger for increasing fat oxidation and mitochondrial activity. In most individuals, liver glycogen can take 12 to 24 hours to significantly deplete depending on activity level, carbohydrate intake, insulin sensitivity, metabolic health. If glycogen remains high, your liver stays in glucose burning mode, and fat loss stays minimal. Warning: common mistakes that block this transition: breaking the fast too early. If you constantly eat before glycogen is depleted, your body never switches fuel sources. High carb meals before fasting: this overfills glycogen stores, delaying fat burning even further. Sedentary lifestyle: movement helps burn glycogen faster, inactivity slows the transition. Actionable strategy: deplete glycogen efficiently. Here's how to help your body make the shift. Add light activity during your fast. Walking, stretching, or even light resistance training can accelerate glycogen usage. Control carbohydrate timing: focus carbs earlier in the day if needed and reduce them at night. Be consistent with your fasting window. Your body adapts over time. The more consistent you are, the faster it switches to fat burning. Consider a lower carb approach. This helps reduce glycogen overload and improves metabolic flexibility. Key point to remember: fasting doesn't equal fat burning. Glycogen depletion is the gateway. Until your liver uses up its stored sugar, your body has no reason to tap into fat. A sluggish, fatty liver. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: you can be fasting correctly, you can be eating healthy, and still not lose fat if your liver itself is metabolically impaired. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your liver is responsible for processing, packaging, and exporting fat. But when fat starts accumulating inside the liver, a condition known as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, that entire system becomes inefficient. Instead of smoothly burning fat or sending it out for energy use, the liver becomes congested and inflamed. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your liver as a shipping center. Normally, fat comes in, gets processed, packaged, and shipped out efficiently. But now imagine that shipping center is overloaded with packages, boxes stacked everywhere, systems backed up. Nothing moves efficiently anymore. That's what a fatty liver looks like metabolically. What the research shows: clinical studies have shown that even mild fat accumulation in the liver can increase insulin resistance, disrupt mitochondrial function, reduce fat oxidation, increase inflammation, and here's the key connection. A fatty liver tends to overproduce glucose and underperform in fat burning. So now you're stuck in a loop. Your liver releases more sugar, insulin stays elevated, fat burning is suppressed, more fat accumulates in the liver. Warning: why fasting alone isn't always enough. Intermittent fasting can absolutely help reverse fatty liver, but only if the underlying metabolic environment supports it. If your diet still includes high sugar intake, processed carbohydrates, frequent insulin spikes, then fasting becomes a partial solution, not a complete one. Actionable strategy: heal the liver for better fat burning. If you want fasting to truly work, focus on restoring liver function. Reduce sugar and fructose aggressively. Fructose is processed almost entirely in the liver and directly contributes to fat buildup. Increase choline-rich foods. Choline helps export fat out of the liver. Sources include eggs, liver, and some fish. Add bitter foods and vegetables. These support bile flow and detox pathways. Think leafy greens, arugula, and cruciferous vegetables. Use fasting strategically, not excessively. Short, consistent fasting windows, 14 to 18 hours, are often more effective than extreme fasting. Support mitochondrial health. Nutrients like magnesium, B vitamins, and adequate protein intake help restore liver energy systems. Key point to remember: if your liver is overloaded with fat, it cannot efficiently burn fat even during fasting. So the goal isn't just to fast longer. The goal is to fix the liver so fasting can work properly. Now we arrive at the metabolic shift everyone is trying to reach when they fast, whether they realize it or not. This is the moment your body stops relying on sugar and starts running cleanly on fat. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Once insulin drops low enough, once glycogen is sufficiently depleted, and once your liver is functioning efficiently, your liver begins converting fat into an alternative fuel source called ketones. That process is known as ketogenesis. Fatty acids to ketone bodies, BHB, acetoacetate, ketogenesis. \text, fatty acids, \retaro, \text, ketone bodies, BHB, acetoacetate, ketogenesis. Fatty acids to ketone bodies, BHB, acetoacetate. These ketones, especially beta-hydroxybutyrate, are not just backup fuel. They are premium fuel for your brain and body. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. If glucose is like burning paper fast, but short-lived ketones are like burning hardwood, they burn slower, cleaner, and more efficiently. This is why many people report more stable energy, sharper mental clarity, reduced hunger, better focus once they reach this state. What the research shows: studies on metabolic flexibility and fasting physiology show that ketones improve mitochondrial efficiency, reduce oxidative stress, support brain function, lower inflammation. In fact, ketones can cross the blood-brain barrier and provide a direct, stable energy source for neurons. That's why this state is often associated with improved cognitive performance and mood stability. Warning: why some people never reach this state. Here's the problem: many people fast, but never fully transition into meaningful ketone production. Why? Because one or more of these conditions are not met. Insulin is still too high, glycogen is not fully depleted, liver function is impaired, stress hormones are elevated, so they stay stuck in an in-between state, not eating, but not fully fat burning either. And that's where fatigue, cravings, and frustration show up. Actionable strategy. Help your body enter ketosis efficiently. Here's how to support this shift. Combine fasting with lower carbohydrate intake. This accelerates glycogen depletion and signals your body to switch fuels. Add healthy fats strategically. Foods like olive oil, avocados, and nuts can support ketone production when used properly. Stay hydrated and maintain electrolytes. Low insulin causes sodium loss, which can lead to fatigue if not addressed. Be patient with adaptation. Your body may take days or weeks to become efficient at producing and using ketones. Avoid constant cheat interruptions. Frequent high-carb meals reset the entire process. Key point to remember: ketones are not the result of fasting alone. They are the result of a fully aligned metabolic state, low insulin, depleted glycogen, a healthy, responsive liver. When those conditions are met, your body doesn't struggle for energy. It becomes metabolically flexible. Now we need to talk about the factor that quietly disrupts everything we've covered so far, even if your fasting, diet, and timing are perfect. Stress. Because here's the truth most people underestimate. You can be doing everything right nutritionally and still block fat burning simply because your body perceives stress. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When your brain senses stress, whether it's physical, emotional, or even metabolic, it activates a survival response. That response releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol's job is simple: keep you alive by making sure there is enough energy available. And how does it do that? It tells your liver, release more glucose into the bloodstream. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body thinks you're in danger. It doesn't know the difference between a real threat, poor sleep, overtraining, emotional stress, or even excessive fasting to your body. Stress is stress. So instead of allowing your system to relax into fat burning, it pushes your liver back into glucose production mode. What the research shows: physiological studies on stress hormones show that elevated cortisol increases gluconeogenesis, glucose production in the liver, raises blood sugar levels, promotes insulin resistance over time, suppresses fat oxidation. This means even during a fast, your body can remain in a sugar-burning state, not because fasting isn't working, but because stress is overriding the signal. Warning: hidden sources of stress that disrupt fasting. This is where many people get stuck. Overfasting too aggressively, jumping into long fasts before your body is ready, can increase stress hormones. Poor sleep quality: even one night of inadequate sleep can elevate cortisol the next day. Excess caffeine: too much caffeine, especially during fasting, can amplify stress responses. Emotional and mental stress: work pressure, anxiety, and constant stimulation all signal threat to your system. Actionable strategy. Lower stress to unlock fat burning. If you want fasting to work, you must create a low-stress internal environment. Match your fasting length to your current health. If you're new, start with 12 to 14 hours. Build gradually. Prioritize sleep like a metabolic tool. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of consistent, high-quality sleep. Use gentle movement instead of intense training while fasting. Walking, stretching, and light activity support fat burning without stress overload. Practice simple nervous system regulation. Deep breathing, sunlight exposure, and time outdoors can significantly lower cortisol. Be mindful with caffeine. Use it strategically, not as a crutch. Key point to remember: fasting is a signal to your body, but stress is a louder signal. And when stress is high, your liver will prioritize survival, not fat burning. Final thought before we wrap up: for fasting to truly work, your body must feel safe enough to shift into fat metabolism. That means low insulin, depleted glycogen, a healthy liver, and a regulated stress response. Now, in the final section, we're going to bring everything together: a clear recap and a simple plan you can start using today to support your liver and make fasting actually work. Let's bring this back to the big picture, because by now you can see that intermittent fasting is not just about skipping meals. It's about what your liver does during that time. Here's what we uncovered today. Your liver is the command center of your metabolism. During fasting, it decides whether to release glucose or burn fat, whether to stay in storage mode or shift into healing mode, whether your energy rises or crashes. We talked about how your liver can still raise blood sugar through glucose production. Insulin must drop for fat burning to begin. Glycogen must be depleted before your body taps into fat. Backhand index pointing right: a fatty liver can block fat metabolism entirely. Backhand index pointing right: ketones represent a clean, efficient fuel state, and stress can override all of it, even if you're fasting perfectly. So the real takeaway is this: fasting doesn't fix your metabolism by itself. A healthy liver does. Fasting is simply the tool that gives your liver the opportunity to reset if the conditions are right. Your simple starting plan: if you want to make this practical, start here. Clean up your last meal of the day, lower sugar and refined carbs. Focus on protein, healthy fats, and whole foods. Build a consistent fasting window, start with 12 to 14 hours. Let your body adapt before extending. Move your body daily. Even simple walking helps your liver regulate glucose and burn stored fuel. Prioritize sleep and stress control. This is not optional, it's foundational for metabolic health. Support your liver through nutrition eggs, leafy greens, hydration, and micronutrients all matter more than you think. Final thought, you don't need to fast longer. You need to fast smarter. Because when your liver is supported and your hormones are aligned, fat burning becomes natural, energy becomes stable, and your body starts working with you instead of against you. Your challenge. Try just one of these changes today. Track how your body responds, your energy, your hunger, your focus. Because real transformation doesn't come from extreme changes, it comes from consistent, intelligent adjustments. If this added value to your understanding, like the video and subscribe and join others who are taking control of their health naturally, one step at a time.